and he died alone in his room from an overdose of heroin. If there'd been prescribed heroin available, to see him through until he could get sorted out.
How can you be sure that it's going to be like what you say? Because everybody's body reacts differently.
I had 3 boys, and the youngest one, Roland, died in 2003. He and his older brother Jacob had started using as teenagers. When Roland died, he was in the process of trying to get help. He got tempted to go out to a friend's house, and there he died in the bathroom from an overdose. After Roland died, which was when Jake was away at university, he was completely devastated because they had been enormously close. And you'd think it would have warned him off drugs, but no, it had the opposite effect. And he died alone in his room from an overdose of heroin. If there'd been prescribed heroin available, to see him through until he could get sorted out. But no, he had to go to a street dealer. As long as it's organised crime who are in charge of manufacturing and supplying drugs, they are always going to be much more unsafe. If drugs are legally regulated, they will be manufactured under the same strict conditions as pharmaceutical drugs.
That's really, really difficult and really painful, isn't it, to go through that? Hence they say addiction is a family illness. Like you, I had 2 boys using heroin and they lost their jobs, became street homeless. After an attempt to work with the local drug services to wean themselves off, they went to a party and both relapsed, and it led to an argument, and Nicholas died by suicide 15 years ago on his own. The worry I have is, how can you be sure that it's going to be like what you say? Because everybody's body reacts differently. You know, you hear some people will say, well, you know, my son, my daughter, they've been using weed for years and they're fine. And then another person will be saying, you know, they're psychotic, paranoid, and so on. That's a really challenging question, isn't it? Because from our experience as a charity, we're working with families all the time who have lost loved ones because of drugs, and they often reflect on the journey where weed is mentioned in that journey. It sounds as though it's a gateway drug in many of the conversations that we have.
I think it's a gateway drug, not because it's weed, but because it is provided and sold by organised crime. It's in the interests of criminal crime gangs to persuade their customers to gradually move on to more dangerous things. Jake, when he was so distraught after Roland's death. And it was the same actually for Roland, sort of well before he died, because he had been in a relationship with a girl. They split up, and what was the first thing that he did to make himself feel better? Went out and got heroin.
I hear that a lot, and you hear both men and women saying that taking heroin, for example, it's like having a warm blanket wrapped around you, medicating on heroin to take away the pain. Yeah, I come now from the position of the work that we do through the charity set up in memory of my son, Drug Fam, and we support families whose lives are impacted and derailed because of alcohol and drug use. Our stats for last year to the charity were over 10,000 calls from family members who would be agreeing with this statement, and over 500 bereaved families.
Well, the reason I haven't put my glass there is because while drugs devastated my family, and also the families of the people in the organisation I belong to, which is Anyone's Child, it is only sometimes that drugs devastate families, because most people who take drugs, they do it non-problematically.
When you've been through that experience with two boys on drugs, and in my case one has died by suicide as a result of it, his brother's death gave the other one life, and he's found recovery, which is wonderful. But he would champion the cause that it really devastated the family. Well, if that means you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the pub.
It's good and it's not good at the same time to meet another parent who has gone through the same experience.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that we both respect one another's points of view. We both know what pain and loss is about, and I think it's been really good.
Cheers.